Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Deborah Jenkins, your host for Black Talk Platform, and I am so excited to be back with you in this brand new year known as 2021. We have been on hiatus for a few weeks, and we are happy to be back here with you. I don't know how many of you are going to come in the room this evening, but I'm here for you. I do apologize that my full roster of guests won't be here this evening. Chaplain Tandra Birkett had to call out sick. She's not feeling well. And so we definitely want to send our prayers her way because, look, in this thing called social justice and Black liberation theology, our bodies will wear out on us. They will tell us you better sit down and get some rest so that you'll be refueled for the battle that is indeed coming. And my friend and brother in the ministry, Pastor Anthony Davis, will be joining me very soon. Tonight, I wanted to talk about a few things. And as usual, I welcome your comments and will do my best to respond. Tonight, on the eve of the ending of a tyrannical administration known as Donald J. Trump, we are happy for his exit. At least I am happy for his exit. And then a new one begins tomorrow. Many of you have high hopes for what a Joseph Biden administration will mean to this nation. My concern, as always, is what any administration means to the Black community. And so that will be the discussion tonight. And certainly we will be talking about the events of January 6th, known as the Insurrection. This is the moment in time where white supremacists showed the entire country and indeed the world exactly who they are physically, and that they've just been hiding under cloaks and behind walls and behind doors until they were beckoned by their master, by their leader, to come out from hiding. And so we will be talking about that. And then there's some things here in our city that are quite disturbing that we may touch on. We have not had an opportunity to debrief these things because Black people need to understand that as long as we're in this country, we are not at home, first of all, but as long as we are here, things are going to continue to happen to Black people and Black bodies, and we have to always be ready. So let me invite Pastor Davis on this evening so that we can get into our discussion. Good evening.
Hey there, how are you?
I am good, and how are you?
Doing okay. Everything is good. This is an important conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're just gonna hit it. I sort of teased it up a little bit. The insurrection on January 6th, and of course, what we're on the eve of a new administration in this nation.
Yeah.
Regardless of who people voted for, I already believe it's gonna be better. I just do, because it has to be. Because guess what I believe? I believe that humanity, compassion, consideration will be restored to a nation that at its helm has been without that for the last 4 years. Why don't you jump in right there, Pastor, in your own words?
Well, I agree. I think that the insurrection, I think these are the things that we warned about Donald Trump from the beginning, right? That this is the kind of person he is. and it's all about white supremacy, white nationalism. And you've always mentioned about that 74 million, I believe the number is, of people
Yes.
who voted for him.
Hmm.
And I think Black folk have to understand that, and I think we do. I think we do understand that this is a large percentage of the country thinks this way, and they support this man. And then we see that he can have a rally and incite a crowd. And this is an insurrection, right?
Yeah.
It's not a protest. This is an insurrection.
Let's call it what it is.
Call it what it is. This is an
Mhm.
absolute treasonous.
Yes.
It's treasonous. And it's astounding when you're watching it unfold, the people marching and the fact that they were not stopped and they were able to make it that far and to cause so much damage, and really to have law enforcement officials, you know, be I guess what's the word I'm looking for, co-conspirators or party of this stuff. Um, I mean, it's just, what do you make of it? And of course, I think the black officer was the one that misdirected the people, sort of was instrumental in sort of saving lives and things of that nature. And I think there's been some calls to promote him, for him, and he's a hero. And but when you watch all that, just as I was watching it, and I was astounded, right? And I said, this is this is America. This is what we said Donald Trump is all about. He is a violent despot.
Yes.
He is what he is. He is out of his mind. He doesn't care about lives, how he's handled COVID, how he's handled the financial situation. Again, stoking the flames of white nationalism. I mean, it's just been the worst of my lifetime, I think, in the country's history, you could argue. And so the fact that we are having a new administration is, I don't care who it is, it could be Donald Duck.
Right. Right.
Better than this guy,
Yes.
And I just think that, sometimes I have to see the divine hand. I spoke to my father today, and I said that, God has to put America on display, right? And this is in our face. It's like I was watching, I don't mean to be so long-winded, but I was watching Eyes on the Prize, that old mid 80s series of documentaries on the civil rights era. Watching and you understand the philosophy of the era of why nonviolence, why certain things. It's really to put America on display, right? To show the violence, to show this position that people have, and it's on television, right? It's on television, and so now in this moment, we saw that on television as a nation. We saw the disposition of these people. Again, the treasonous behavior, this insurrection that they participated in, all stemming from anti-Black racism. That's what motivates these people, is that the country is changing, right? And Black folks have exerted political power, and when you do that, they feel as if you've stolen something from them. When all the evidence says no, it's the other way around, that you've tried to suppress our votes, but we did what we needed to do to make sure that our votes count. You're muted, Pastor. You're muted. Yeah.
I am sorry. Yes, everything you said, yes, and more. It always puzzles me as to how white people who have the upper hand in this country, even now, and as was evidenced in their treatment by law enforcement on January 6th, to the point where officers were seriously injured and one was killed.
Yeah.
Because there is an innate trust that whiteness has in whiteness, and doesn't believe that it would ever harm itself. But the reality is, and if the truth be told, historically, they have always harmed each other also.
Absolutely.
I would just say that as a group, they're violent people.
Yeah.
And history bears that out. And I just need to interweave something that happened here in New York just yesterday. during the celebration of Dr. King's birthday, right? On MLK Jr. Day, a group of protesters, the Black Liberation protesters, were marching from Brooklyn to City Hall, where
Yeah.
they encountered the NYPD.
Mm-hmm.
The NYPD did their job in terms of saying, listen, you got to not block the streets. But if you go and listen to the audio, it's so striking, the contrast between the nice kid gloves with which these insurrectionist, treasonous outlaws behaved on the 6th at the nation's capital.
Right.
They seem to have been being toured through the Capitol while
Yes.
our elected officials are hovered, taking cover with
In
their
cover.
staff
Yeah.
in the same building, but they're being toured, guided toured by the Capitol Police. But here, they're screaming at protesters. And I mean, clearly, if you're coming across the bridge, you're going to be in the street. And of course, law enforcement is supposed to tell you to keep it moving, get out of the street, whatever their job is. I don't have a problem with them, even with a harsh tone, saying, get out of the street. What I have a problem with is the way they advanced on these protesters.
Right.
They were in full riot gear, and this is perhaps something that we should also consider. Is this a part of their so-called reform? Always being in riot gear when people of color, Black people and other people of color gather?
Right.
They don't do that when there are thousands of Hasidics gathering against the law for a funeral or for a wedding in Orthodox neighborhoods in Brooklyn. But when you see a bunch of Black people coming across a bridge, you're in riot gear, you're tackling them to the ground, and there a melee breaks out. So they've not learned anything since January 6th. This is the largest police department in the world. You would think that they would have taken this as an opportunity to show the rest of law enforcement how to interact with protesters and understanding the difference between an insurrection and a protest. Pastor, talk to me, calm me down.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to calm you down because it's. I think logic causes you to respond the way you're responding, right? To feel the way you feel, right? Logic, right? But how many times has we've seen unarmed Black person, male or female, be shot or killed within police custody, and we can see instances where, of course, the same situation for a white person, they're getting that person who shot 9 people in a church, McDonald's or Burger King or whatever it was, or we can look at all these instances where there's a double standard, right?
Right.
Okay, and we can see all these instances where shootings occur, protests happen. We begin to come out as a people and in this rage, and you would think now we have dialogue. We start to talk about racism in America and this double standard, law enforcement, how Black and brown folks are policed differently, and we tend to think that something's going to change. Yet, then again, somebody else is shot, somebody else is choked, somebody else is whatever it is. I mean, it never changes. So here we are, and this insurrection occurs, and we see the double standard. If there were Black Lives Matter protesters, we've seen on Capitol Hill how they're dealt with in terms of the gear of the law enforcement, right? How that's handled as opposed to what we saw with the insurrection. It's a different thing. And so now we shouldn't expect that any different, even though it's fresh off of January 6th and this incident that happened in New York. There's no difference. Like, I understand the logic and the sense that you make, right? But this is what the country's about. And how many times have we seen people filming, right, with their phones, various incidents? You would think that cops would take care because things are being filmed and it's going to go on Facebook Live. Where we've seen all these instances in the aftermath of all of these things. yet the cops still continue to do what they do because it's inherent. It's part of they expect to get off. They're doing their job.
Right.
And the job is not to police white folk.
No.
Even insurrectionists, right?
Right.
Those who are committing treason.
Right.
And going into, I think someone went into Nancy Pelosi's office and stole her computer.
Yeah. And was
the Russians. I mean,
yeah.
like,
and the interesting part about that is that whatever they found,
yes.
it wasn't sufficient to give to the Kremlin, I guess. So,
no. But,
here, take your stuff back.
Yeah, but the mindset to do something so treasonous,
right,
astounding. And so the country has a problem because it's on display. That's the point I was making about watching Eyes on the Prize and the philosophy of the nonviolence, that it's on display. We've seen it on display, and the world sees it, right? The world sees everything. And so change is incremental, right? And change comes from our forcing, right? And our making people like having these conversations, right? And so now our voices are politically, because we did everything we needed to do to get Trump out of office. And this is, and again, the insurrection is that sort of response to this Black political power, right? But now we're moving into a new day where, and I think it's not just the fact, and I think Biden is understanding that he's reading the tea leaves, some of his initiatives, some of the things that he wants to do. There's a flavor to them that I can get with. Now I'm look, the jury's still out,
Sure.
Show me. But at least some of the things that he's putting on the table are things. I like where you're going with that. I like the fact that you're open about these things, or you want to lead off with these things. But again, that's because of the fact that we have demonstrated this political power. And I think that's the thing that Black folk for a long time have been trying to, sort of figure out. How do we deal with this, the political arena, right? How do we, and and it's not either or. You need protests, you need all the things we've done, and you need the political inside game, and you need to vote. You need all of these pieces that work. And and all of these parts, and we're beginning to synthesize them, and now we're becoming a problem. That's why the white nationalists are so up in arms, because with everything happening, we are actually winning.
Right.
And that's where I said, you said, make you feel better? Yes. I think we're actually winning.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. I do have a fear. And that's why I'm going to be careful in using those words. But I definitely agree with you that there's a bit of sunlight that we can see as Biden gets ready to take position.
Yeah.
The huge advantage, I believe, is that he is truly inheriting a mess. I mean, a real mess, where he has to put out a bunch of fires. I heard a pundit today suggest that he needs to go through each and every agency and weed out those loyalists who have been doing absolutely no work for the last 4 years, and that was very intentional.
Yeah.
He has so much work to do that I believe keeping in front of him will be the thoughts of how he got there, and also the thought of, I can make history in such a way, because so much has been depreciated during the last 4 years.
Right.
I am skeptical, though, about what I'm beginning to hear from the liberal echo chambers regarding foreign policy. I'm happy to see that Congressman Meeks from Brooklyn will be chairing the Foreign Relations Committee in the House. I think that's wonderful, because I think we've talked about this before, how we're not ever considered when we're talking about the Department of Treasury, anything to do with economics and nothing to do with foreign policy since Condoleezza Rice. Condoleezza Rice had to go and get all of her degrees in Russian studies in order to rise to become, what did she become? The Secretary of State?
Yes.
Or NSA, whatever her role was. She had to jump through all those hoops. When we have a person like Dr. Jason Johnson, who is a brilliant political scientist and understands both domestic and foreign policy. So I'm happy to see Congressman Meeks rise to this level. But I am cautious of us going back to this United States saves the world syndrome that we've had for such a long time. And I'll tell you why, Pastor, because 45 has done such a horrible job in the United States in terms of disenfranchising the voters, and the United States Postal Service is a wreck. There's so much Biden has to attend to domestically without us becoming overly entangled in foreign policies. We know Uganda just had a new election. China's doing something. China's always doing something. And then, of course, Russia has imprisoned the man that they tried to kill, for the next 30 days. And now there are cries on the left for Biden to address these things with what I would say has been the traditional heavy hand of the United States. Do you have any thoughts about that in terms of our global participation?
In light of the fact that Biden is going to be taking over, or
yeah.
I agree with you. I think he has to undo a lot of damage. I think your point has to do with the fact that Biden having to untangle a lot of things. I think we have to let this sort of play out, and I think what I'm happy about is the fact that I understand everything that you're saying, and I still have optimism because, Black folk again have exerted the kind of political power that the world would have to recognize, and that's where I sort of look at things. I think it's easy. You said something about the America or United States being sort of, I think the police of the world. That's what America does. America is going to be embroiled in those types of things, but what I care about, and I think I've shifted my focus, is Black people in America. Like, how do we handle things? Are we in positions? Right? And if we're in position to be able to impact change, and you talked about Meeks being in position to do that, which is good, right? So that we are now at the table, and I think that's important. So I think that being at the table, and I think that the agenda, or a better word is the mandate, that Black folks need to make it clear. Like, you have a mandate both domestically and in foreign politics, right? So for foreign affairs. So we need to, as a community, become well versed. And you've mentioned all of the various things that are happening, whether in China or different parts of the world. And talked about, I think,
Uganda and Russia.
Russia, right? You mentioned all of these various things. We need to do our homework, and we need to pay attention to these things. But again, I think that if we can just sort of awaken, and not, America will always do what it does,
right?
If we participate and are at the table, then I have some optimism, and I think that's how I look at things. I no longer look at things through the lens of America being some kind of, I don't know, something. It is what it is. It's an imperialistic nation.
Yes.
To control and to police and to invade and to whatever it does, right? Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of us guiding the discourse, Black folks, and mandating our government. This is what we want to see happen. That's the next phase, right?
You're right.
Right.
And I did fail to mention that in terms of these foreign issues, he has nominated a Black man for the first time ever to be the
Right.
Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
That is huge, because if blacks make up 40% of the armed services, shouldn't there be a black person who is helping to guide the presidents of the United States as to whether to send our men and our women, regardless of race, clearly, but definitely our black brothers and sisters, Latino brothers and sisters? Why? Because most times they are not just for passion, but they are enlisting because they have no other options. And so it is a matter of caring for myself and for my family, and those decisions as to get involved in foreign affairs, which might lead to some level of combat, should be considered very carefully. And I'm grateful for a black person
Yeah.
being in that seat, being nominated to be in that seat.
Yeah.
And I think, again, the sixth took a whole lot of light away from the Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, tell me how you feel about that. It is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal thing. He's like you and I. He's a black liberation theologian. They tried to come at him, trying to get him like they did with Obama, with Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright, who I still revere in the ministry as a leader and a voice that still should be heard. What are your thoughts about the possible impact that he can make as the first black senator, period, from the state of Georgia?
Well, he says something. I think he said something to the effect that he is a Matthew 25 Christian. I forget where he said that, but that was an important thing. Where he talks about, I think Jesus talks about, when I was in prison, you didn't come to visit me when I was in these various instances. Where then I think what I understand, and when you listen to other preachers talk about him, he is steeped in liberation theology, right? As I understand.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he again, so his attitude and how he handles things, his worldview, as he says, comes from that Matthew 25 chapter. I think it's powerful. So again, it speaks to the things I'm talking about, why I'm optimistic when I see what's happened in Georgia and the people, again, that you mentioned in these various positions, right? So
Right.
black folk are now steering things, and then to have someone who is so publicly and so unapologetically black with a black liberation theology disposition, I think powerful. So I mean, it's
Powerful. Yeah.
like, I think it's a new day, and so I have been okay. I'll speak for myself. Like when I look at Warnock and I look at, again, people who I admire and respect, I know of Warnock, but not deeply. And so now it's made me look at him far more deeply as during this election. So I'm listening, and I like what I hear, and I like what he's about. But I like what people who know him are saying about him. And again, it's just looking for motivation, as even as a regular black person like myself. You're trying to find reasons to keep on going and to keep doing what we do, and to see again him win in Georgia, and to see this change, right? And again, this unapologetic blackness on display, and in positions of power. It makes me, I can now sort of breathe and say, okay, we can actually do something. I think a lot of what we've experienced with, again, this rise of white nationalism, not that it ever really went away, but in response to it, I think it's a day where possibility is the word that I want to use. That I think we finally understand possibilities. We've been through so much, but Trump and all of that we faced, COVID, didn't stop us. We still did what we needed to do. We still waited on long lines.
Right.
Protested. COVID didn't stop us from protesting.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. And then people who, like Warnock, are now in these positions, and they represent us theologically and ideologically. So now it's like, wow, we did that.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think I don't think I've been as happy about a Black politician as Warnock before now,
Right.
because he shares our views, and actually it is going to be through his policy making that more Blacks awaken to the need for our own liberation
Yeah.
from all of the atrocities that have been visited upon us. And let me share this with you, Pastor. I don't know if you saw the clip of the white man being arrested. I think he was on that no-fly list or something in the
Mhm.
airport. And they had, he fought them, the cops. So they had to wrestle him down to the ground. And once
Mhm.
down there, he's screaming at them and saying, "Turn me loose. I'm not Black. I'm not Black. I'm
I didn't
a
hear
white
that.
man."
I didn't see that.
I mean, but this is how even the Black officers saw them, but definitely the white officers at the Capitol. They're white people, even though they were screaming. They were the ugliest, acting people. They were horrible. They were there. I don't remember any protesters running like they did, like these people did. These were the worst of some of the worst. See, all
Right.
74 million didn't go there, but let's make no mistake, they're there, they're out there. And just so they are afraid of the power that we demonstrated through our collective effort
Right.
to change things.
Mhm.
um I have a concern which many of us share, and I do share this. You're more of an optimist than I am. I'm a wait and see type of person, you know. But I don't really think Biden is going to have a chance to just rear back in his seat and put his feet up on his desk. He's going to be really working. So I think that I can find some hope in that he won't be able to get into a bag, right? He
Right.
doesn't seem to have put any hawks out there, but I'm going to let y'all know I'm not happy with the Department of Agriculture nomination, because he's a Monsanto person. And so when we're talking about good food, organic food, Monsanto's been killing not only Black people, but people, period, with their horrible Roundup and their lawsuits. Tom Vilsack, and he was in the Obama administration. And so I understand why Biden has chosen some of these people, but that is one whose eyes we have to keep our eyes on. But back to their white fear, you know, um, they when Warnock won, and Ossoff for that matter, these are the two groups they hate.
Right. Right. Right.
They hate Blacks and they hate the Jewish people, right?
Right.
In,
Yeah.
in the state of Georgia, are you kidding me? This is them saying, "Are you kidding me? No, no way." And so their master, as I call him, 45, has convinced them that this is a whole ruse. This just did not happen. It is not legitimate. And it's just sad that they had such a willingness to believe this lie after the man has filed about 60 lawsuits and lost most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if he won a handful, 5, that's doing good. And none of his lawyers would go in there and swear on an oath that it was that they had evidence, because they didn't. It was all theater. But yet these people still saw fit to go down or come to Washington D.C. and try to storm the Capitol. And
Yeah.
actually, no, I'm sorry, storm the Capitol. What
Yeah.
my concern is, Pastor, is for all of us walking around here, Black
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
My family was out. Usually we travel together, but they were just out before our show began, and I was so happy when they came in,
Mhm.
because even where we live, pretty okay. There, I know that they're not all down south. I know that they didn't all just come from Arizona. I know that they're here in New York, you know.
Mhm.
And just before the show, a young lady who I watched grow up and I were talking about an experience she had, and it both angered me, because racism does that for me.
Right.
And it also made me terribly sad that she had to go through this. She's just minding her business and she's being followed by a racist who's trying to run her off the road. You know, these things bother me. And then to know that they just open the doors for these people who They invited basically into the Capitol, which has been closed since COVID, since last March. These cops allowed them in some cases. We saw the aggression on other sides of the Capitol, but they allowed them in and then they allowed them to leave. And thus far, they've still not arrested, what, 200 people yet? Not even 200
Not
people?
even right. Not even 200. Right.
Then you have samurai guy or shaman guy, mama, going to court and saying, my baby got to have organic food. And what does the judge do? He orders the jail to give him organic food. Then you have another guy who still, I don't know if it's the guy who stole the podium or what, but he's out because what was his reason for being out on bail? He's out on bail because he's a single dad.
I didn't
Or
see.
he's no, I'm sorry. He's not even a single dad. He's a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, I didn't see that. That's right.
And so white supremacy is still operating after these people are being charged with felonies, federal felonies. So there's so much work to do. There's so much work to do. And I'm going to try to gain some of that optimism that you have. But I
Yeah.
know that the work is there to be done. And we
Well,
just have to keep going.
My optimism comes not so much because I think it's more, we know what America's about. So I no longer allow myself to be surprised, and you're not surprised.
Yeah.
With the nation. It's frustrating.
Yes, that's a great word,
and it makes us, as you said, be vigilant. And my optimism doesn't negate my being vigilant or keeping my eyes open or putting pressure on people.
Yes.
But not in the structure of the government or the fact that white supremacy doesn't exist. Or none of what you just said surprises me, right? I mean, I expect that to happen. I expect them to get off. I expect to see things that are double standards and things that doesn't, right. So that's not where my optimism comes from. Those things make me angry and frustrated. My optimism comes from, I know that's going to happen. It doesn't defeat me anymore. It's not defeating us anymore.
Right.
So we remain vigilant and we remain sort of steadfast. I mean, and so it's we've been able to again stand on long lines and vote people in and hear all these things and still maintain our focus. We're not giving up or we're not throwing in the towel. And it's staggering when you think about before that was January 6th was the insurrection. I think the day before the report came out about how he was trying to pressure the person in Georgia, the Secretary of State, find some votes for me. Like those 2 days, you can't make it up with the type of illegal this sort of treason again. This again illegal behavior that the president engaged in, and the fact that we couldn't impeach him and again or get him out of office before
he gets to walk out.
Before he gets to walk out. And so again, that's a part of white privilege, right? That how he managed to still remain president, and he'll still leave with some sense of whatever it is, like a transition, I guess, not really dignity, but at least he'll still be in office, right, officially. And it would have been good to establish some precedent with him being forced to be removed.
Absolutely.
But again, none of that has discouraged me. None of that has discouraged our people, and we still are moving on. And again, Biden understands that he's putting people in positions. I look at his cabinet. I look at women of color, that what he has, and all the variables. Those are the things that I'm looking at. Like, and we continue to, and we remain unapologetically Black.
That's right.
And we don't stop, and we keep moving forward.
Pastor, let's pull some of these comments over here. They're lighting it up over here. We have Reverend Barbara. She loved the Matthew 25 that you shared with us about Dr. Warnock. Amen, amen, amen. Juanita says, it's a new day indeed. Let's be optimistic. Let's push forward. Let's get motivated and help push them forward. Let's not wait for them to slip up, because they may, and if they do, then let's help pick them up and help keep them on track. I say to that, Juanita, yes, but I say, let's get an agenda together to present to them so that they have a mandate that's more than just our votes, but these are our written necessary request of you. You know, they're gonna, like Pastor David said, they're gonna still do what they do within the realms of what America does, United States does, right? But we can't afford to let up now. We are breathing easier. I agree with Pastor Davis about that. Even and I'm also reflective. You know, it was the show before Thanksgiving that I realized that I needed to change the way I did this, because I stayed at a height like this, Pastor Davis, of frustration so much. And these are the same things over and over again. But I realized it wasn't good for my health, and it can also impede the progress that we need to make as a people. And so I agree with both you and Pastor Davis on that. She goes on to say, goodbye to that man. Help us, Lord, to go forward, trusting you. That's the point right there. We're going to trust God, and we know we still have work to do. Neff says, thank you for your flowery words, Neff. She says, yes, trifling. I'm pretty sure she's talking about him or some of that insurrection nonsense. Juanita says, I love you guys and will replay this. Okay, she has to leave. I hope you feel better, Juanita. Neff says something. Oh, she was okay. So she was responding to the Tom Vilsack appointment. Said organic food since when? Look, girl, I eat organic food as much as possible. But you're right. She goes on to say, but we're just trying to eat edible food that is edible without them putting poison in our food. You know, it's one thing to choose processed food, but when you're talking about the food that grows from the earth, that is when it becomes problematic for all of us. And yes, she goes on to talk about the racists. She says they're right here in New York City as well, and they're not all in Staten Island. I mean, they're just a big old thumb out there, but they're right here where we are. They're in all the 5 boroughs. They're in Lower Westchester, and of course, we know they're upstate. And I think that this is when we have to strategize. And I like the point you were making, Pastor Davis, about the power that we demonstrated throughout this country in the rain, in the heat, voting. Now, how do we strategically plan to hold these elected officials who are basically there because of our tenacity around the vote?
Well, I think, and that's a very important question that won't be answered here, but
right.
Continue to build on. Because I've thought about these things, and you talk about a written agenda, and we had that show on Ice Cube, and we talked about these types of things. And for years, I used to watch the Tavis Smiley Black Agenda Union, and they had some type of a document that they wanted to present as the sort of agenda for Black America. So how do we do all of these things? And I think we're still learning how. And I think the way to do it is, again, by putting people in positions of power, right, and holding them accountable, and making it clear what. So for example, like we did the thing for city council, right, endorsing and talked about issues, and so from that, and that was very powerful. And I mean, we may think on a small level, but that was very powerful that somebody's running for city council. We meet all the candidates, we hear their platform, right? And then we as a body or as a
body,
we endorse somebody,
right?
Because they have to reflect our values and what we want. And I realized that that's the model. We on the grassroots level have to begin to do that, right? So we were on these Zoom calls, letting people talk. Let's hear from you. And so we and the person that we endorse was elected. Right. And I'm thrilled about that. And again, while I'm optimistic, we did that.
Yeah. We played a role, and we got the community involved.
Right. And so I think because my endorsement of Riley as city councilman, and yours as we did that, people who respect me and respect you may not be in tune, but they respect our who we are and our,
Right.
how we
Right.
think about these things. And so people will come out to vote, and they did that. My wife or whoever may not be familiar. Oh, wait, or friends or loved ones or church members. Oh, yeah. And I would speak to them about, yeah, I'm looking at that guy, and this is why, right? But that's how you do it, right? And I think you take that model that we've established and you continue with that model, and you continue to grow. That's how you do it. But it takes around the nation to do that. We have to learn that the grassroots person, that person who's ordinary, who is a pastor, who is a teacher, who is you organize. We've been talking about that all throughout, right? Organizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so even this platform is a way of organizing people, right? Gathering people,
Yep.
Shaping thought, right? And then that's how you do it. But we can't think that, oh, this is too small. It's not too small, because these efforts led to the person we wanted to be elected got elected.
Exactly. And we have to continue to do that as well. Neff agrees with you. She says we need to hold forums on the how. And you're absolutely right. We like Biden, right? We can't afford to just say we're going to go back to bed now. Phew! The work still has to be done. And even if it hadn't been the horrible 4 years that it was, there's always going to be work that needs to be done. And as we have children and hope to see them have children, there will always be work for us to do to align them on the path towards improvement.
Right.
And like you also said, Pastor Davis, this is a nation that is racist. It will probably never shed that skin. But what we have demonstrated over the course of the last year, and like it or not, like him or not, I'm not in South Carolina. I know people in South Carolina. I've heard different things about him, but Congressman Jim Clyburn,
Right. Mm-hmm.
he is critical. He's played a critical role in the advancement of Joe Biden to the point where he is now president of the United States, or will be tomorrow at high noon, which we'll all be so happy to know, I'm sure. Well, not 34%. 34%. 34% will not be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because they believe that the outgoing president has done an excellent job. And look, I have to say something for 34%. At least they're loyal to the very end.
Yeah.
You can't fault people for being loyal to the very end, but I can fault those elected officials who went in there to try to. I don't know if everybody understands what they were trying to do. What was it, 138? It ended up being 138 after the insurrection, right? After they were able to come back and complete their work. Before that, it was like 160 something. They come back in, it's 130 something, because 30 of them said this was too close, too close for comfort. Forget about that. Biden won. That's it. Is over. But for the 130 plus, having their lives possibly flashing before them. Mike Pence had been a Republican's Republican.
Right.
But these insurrectionist, treasonous folk were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," the sitting vice president. And his family, his wife and his children were there. So when you think about these people, these elected officials, even if newly elected Congresswoman Cori Bush is unsuccessful in having them expelled, and I personally have to say I have some thoughts about that, because their constituents elected them, And if anything, they should be recalled in their states. That's, that to me is constitutional. But I don't know how her bill is going to go. But I do have that as, and I like to do those type of things because we have to stay honest about things ourselves. We cannot just say just because we're mad this should happen, right? I do think that their constituents, the residents of their states elected them. And if when they got back, they're not calling for their resignation and stuff, we got to live with them. But what we can do is hold them accountable.
Right.
And those people in those states can ensure that they're not reelected.
Right.
Because if we're going to say we want the Constitution to work, we got to want it to work for them too, as horrible as they are. Three Congress people getting COVID probably because these dummies wouldn't put on a mask. How simple is that? And then they're talking and spitting all over the place. It's just lunacy, Pastor Davis. That whole thing was crazy. But one thing I don't ever want to hear, and I'm sure we will, is another white person referring to Black people as monkeys. Did you see how they spelled that building?
No, I didn't say that. Say it again.
You did not see how they scaled the building?
Oh yeah. I
mean, come on now.
Yeah.
It was very tactical. Also, I would say,
yeah.
They ridiculous. All I'm saying, it should be more than 100 and change arrested right now. There should be, if the NYPD could arrest 30 people that quickly yesterday.
Yeah.
What's their problem? What is their major malfunction?
And they have pictures. There's all types of. There's no reason for this to take as long as. But I think we expected this. I think we expected.
Oh, yeah. We're not surprised. This is just unnecessary conversation right now. We do need to focus on these forums and also strengthening our raise the bar, because in New York, we are now faced with what they call ranked choice voting. And people are not educated about it. And so what's going to happen is they're going to default to the name that is most well known to them instead of the best candidate, probably. And so those are the type of things that we have to take up and provide education for the citizens and everything. Pastor Davis,
yes, ma'am.
As we prepare to wrap up, hi Deacon Sandra, hi Desiree, thank everybody for joining us tonight. Any thoughts about the inauguration itself tomorrow?
Well, I think my concern is, with as optimistic as I appear to be, I'm also concerned about the day, and the safety and the well-being of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and everything else, because I just think you hear reports about people walking around with semi-automatic weapons in different parts of the country, and people seem to be upset and responding in crazy ways, and you just don't know, So I think they're taking all the precautions necessary, but the nation cannot have can't have something tragic happen. We can't, and that's that's something that really troubles me. But so you pray, and you trust that everything will go well, and I believe it will. But that's just something that concerns me.
Sure.
But other than that, I think tomorrow marks a new day. I just think that it does. I think that and even I think Biden has. I was concerned about his age. I was concerned about his faculty, and his ability. But I think he's handled himself okay. I think he's got the right people around him. I think Kamala Harris is the right person around him. And but again, my hope is not in him. And I think I want to make that clear. My hope is not ever in the system. My hope is never in a president. And of course, we believe in God. And I think that's the first and foremost thing. But I just think that I look at the power of Black people, and I think tomorrow is the realization of that, because we elected Obama in, and that was thrilling, right? And I think we took our foot off the gas.
Yes.
Right.
Big time.
Because of the symbolism of Obama, right? And I understand. And I to some extent took my foot off the gas, at least momentarily.
Sure.
Back on the gas at some point to say, hey, we need to really again organize. But by taking our foot off the gas, it allowed for Trump, and we took it for granted, and he got in office because he was propelled by white nationalism. And I think we learned from that moment that, hey, we cannot simply rest on symbolism.
Right. Exactly.
Participate. And I think now what you see is Black participation and Black power. And that's really what's been resonating in my mind. Black power. That
Black power.
I
agree with you. And I mean, if I had my druthers, that Black power would transcend politics, as we as a people have always relied on politics. And I think it goes all the way back to the Emancipation Proclamation. That is when we began to rely on politics as an extension of our faith even. And I think we need to be able to decouple ourselves from that reliance upon politics and see the great power that we have as a people to direct politics to do what we the people need it to do on behalf of the people. I'm encouraged by our new congressman, Jamal Bowman, pushing for HR 40. Most people don't even know. I'm encouraged because Sheila Jackson Lee has a partner in him around HR 40 and reparations. I saw more posts about Dr. King's we're coming for our check, we're coming for our check yesterday than I did I Have a Dream. And I think that was set off by his daughter, reminding people, stop acting like y'all loved my dad when he was alive. That's a lie. You couldn't even deal with the where do we go from here, chaos or community, Dr. Martin Luther King. I'm so glad she did that because she caused people to look deeper at Dr. King than what the media has been pushing out to us all these years about Dr. King. Every program that we were in, we all had to recite it either together or individually. I have a dream. Well, that's not my dream. My dream is the check cashing dream. And that is what they're afraid of, that somebody's going to make them have to pay for all that they've done to us. And the reality, though, is that they can never pay. And we talked about that on this show, too. They can never give us back our grandmother, great grandmother's wounds. They can never give our ancestors the grandfathers their private parts back. They can never really give us back our true families, because the reality is you and I don't know if we're related in some way because they sold us from plantation to plantation. So they can't do that. But I'm still happy to know that there are at least two who are fighting hard for HR 40 that she's been pushing for the longest. And I'm glad Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee has a partner in him. And I think that we also have to hold the Congressional Black Caucus.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's a whole nother show, right, Pastor? Let's get our little notes together and come back for them. Let's come for them in February. But they have to be more accountable to the Black community. We've allowed them, in the same way we took our foot off the gas with President Obama. Well, we had always had it off the gas for them. We allowed them to get in their little silos and push what they wanted to push. But now they have to also answer to the Black community. And I think we have a lot of work to do. Like you and Neff said, we have a lot of work to do around organizing and doing these forums. And we may be exhausted at the end of the day, but it is critically important that we do that. Bingus has joined us. He said that Vice President-elect Kamala Harris brings soul connections to everything. I guess he's talking about the Blackness in her. You can let me know if that's what you mean. The Black has always been there. We just unleashed it this time around. And the Black power has always been there. It was finally unleashed this time around. Yes. Pastor, you want us to make this announcement tonight, or should we, since Tandra's not here? She said we could. What do you think? Or you want to wait?
We can wait.
Let's wait, right? So we can all be here. We do have a wonderful announcement for everyone, but we're going to wait until Tandra's feeling better and we can all announce together and give direction. And we're hoping that you will want to join us, because we're actually not going to slow down. We know that God had us begin back in May. Oh my goodness, we're headed towards a year, but he had us begin back in May to discuss these issues that were really not being discussed. And if so, we were quietly discussing them. But this this period that we have been in called for our voices to be amplified in unity and out loud. And I'm so happy that we've done it. And I look forward to this season 2 of Black Talk Platform, having you back as often as you like to come, Pastor Davis, to discuss these and other critical issues as we continue to move forward, and invite others to join us. We can and tell people that we will be looking to add to our Raise the Bar coalition, because I would like to, Pastor, see it become 5 borough wide.
Yeah.
Initially, because a whole lot is happening. And we're all one city after all. There's some dynamic women running, and I'm not only advocating for women, but I am advocating for the best representation that we can have. In fact, we'll try to get Reverend Kimberly Council on in the coming weeks, who is running for Brooklyn Borough President. And we'll come on and give her the space together, Pastor Davis, because we're all in this same bowl of ministry, and see what she has to offer to the people in Brooklyn. You know, because that's going to be a hard fought seat, and let's give her a platform to do it. And that's how we win together, Black people. But if you have a voice, if you have space where people listen to you, regardless of who they are, and you can offer that space to another Black person, you need to avail yourself to them so that their voices might begin to be amplified, because money rules politics and we don't all have it.
Right.
So please consider doing that. Jeff just joined us. Jeff, we're shutting it down, but we're happy to see you here with us tonight. Listen, everybody, thank you for joining me and my guest, Pastor Anthony Davis. We'll be back again together soon. Next week, we're going back to Tony Lindsay, who was here. I'm doing, if you all recognize, I'm doing the reverse of how we ended 2020. Pastor Davis, Tandra, and my husband and I, we ended the last segment on December 29th. The week before that, I had as my guest Mr. Tony Lindsay, and we were talking about investing. And so he's coming back for part 2. I hope you all have been looking and trying to invest. Let me tell you, I was a happy camper today with my stock portfolio. I'm telling you, this is a good time. It's always good when it doesn't matter who the president is. It's always good when one president leaves and another comes. It's always good. So consider opening some accounts tomorrow and start investing a little bit. You ain't got to do a lot, just do a little bit. And Janet Yellen made a great statement today, and that's why the stock market rallied today. So listen, this is a platform for you all to begin to invest and to build generational wealth. So next week, join us back here at 7 p.m. I'm going to shoot it back to Pastor Davis for the last word. God bless you all, and thank you. Pastor.
Hey, listen, I'm always glad to be on this show, and I'm always commend you in your leadership. And I think that this is why whenever you ask me to be on the show, I have no problem, because I like this form of Black power. And I always think that, I said to you before, there's not enough Black media out here. It seems like we've been muted.
Yes.
And radically Black media. And so, hey, I believe that in the coming years, in not just the future, what you have here in terms of this platform is just going to grow and get better. And I'm excited about that. That's my last word.
Awesome. Thank you, Pastor. I hope you're right. I'm going to take that from your mouth to God's ears and pray
Amen.
that. So God bless you all. We'll see you next week.
All right.